So hi there. It's Carson Heady, and I am back with the one and only Richard Vickers.
Oh
Richard,
my
how are you,
gosh,
man?
I'm good, Carson. I love our visits, and sometimes we just have to hit record when we're bantering before we get on these sessions, because I
Seriously.
think those are probably more valuable than anything that we ever do. Just our friendship and our connection, and just the transparency and authenticity that we talk, how we talk.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, before we hit record, I've already gotten like two great book recommendations and some tips for my marriage. So I always appreciate you as well, my friend. And recently you made this really great post on LinkedIn, and I wanted to dive in a little bit on it. Because it's about leadership, which, look, there's a lot of content that's out there about leadership. But right now, because things are so um, challenging, ambiguous sometimes in our working world, um, it makes it all the more important that these principles of leadership are present and prominent in the workplace, because we spend so much time at work thinking about work. It's our livelihood. It's how we provide for our
Yeah.
family. But during those times, it's critical that whether we are people leaders or if we're leading from every seat, that we're exhibiting some of these amazing traits. So first off, what I'd love for you to do, Richard, is what was the motivation and the inspiration? When I write a really good post, or when I think I write a really good post, I feel like there was something that kind of was the spark or the catalyst. What prompted this post? What were you thinking in the moment?
Well, a couple of things, because if you go to Amazon.com right now and you type in books on leadership, obviously you get thousands upon thousands upon thousands of books. How to be a great leader, whatever. I like to look at things completely opposite, because if you type in the cost of leadership, uh, it you probably your search engine will be reduced much more, because I think there's much more to a cost of leadership than there is to learning how to be a great leader. And then I think about it on the flip side of the coin, and it's just the way my brain is wired, the oxymoron of leadership. I was in a one-on-one with some of my team, and we were bantering around a couple of different problems and situations that we were trying, hurdles we were trying to overcome. And at the end of it, quite honestly, Carson, we came up with about three good solutions, or three positive different directions that we could go. And I remember I was coming up against a hard stop, and I was going to jump off the call. And I told my team, I said, listen, I'm good with all three of these solutions, but I trust all of you. I trust you all. So whatever works best out of these three, I trust you to come. You would have thought the look on, especially two of their faces, was, nobody's ever said that to us from
Mm.
a leadership perspective. The words, I trust you. It just got me to thinking, what are some other phrases that are oxymoron to leadership that really will unlock our team, so they go, wow, we are more than just the foot soldiers carrying out the requests. We're human beings who bring something to the table. And for me, it just unlocked a whole, games, right? Kids play these games and it unlocks a different level. For me, it just unlocked a different level.
Powerful, man. I mean, I remember seeing the post, and it was a few weeks back, but
Yeah.
some of the things that jumped out, and I always try to look inside, and I ask myself, like, what of these do I leverage today, and which could I do better at? So there was an image that you shared, and it was the 12 things that only strong leaders say. Number one,
Yeah.
what's your take? Number two, I trust you. Number three, I was wrong. Number four, great work. Number five, run with it. Number six, how can I help? Number seven, you decide. Eight, let's celebrate. Nine, I've got your back. 10, thank you. 11, teach me. 12, we'll figure it out. As I was looking through this, Richard, I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, some of these I do today, right? Like
Yeah.
I do absolutely ask, like, people's take. I like surveying my people. I like staying at the pulse of what matters to them. They're the ones that are on the front lines. They're in the field. They have the best intel. And so that also begets that trust level. And when I read your post, I think about what are the things that get in our way sometimes as people leaders. And it can be ego, it can be imposter syndrome, it can be if I don't have all the answers, wow, then I'm not a good manager, I'm not a good leader, so I
Yeah.
might get replaced. It's that scarcity mindset. But the reality is people don't need you to have all the answers. They want to have someone who puts them in a position to win, who trusts them, but also I always like to tell people, like, you earned the right to be in the position that you're in and to make the decisions that you're making. I am always here to bounce ideas. I'll tell you my thoughts and I'll tell you my experiences, but the decision is yours. And I think that's the key. I can't help having this conversation, though, without also making the comparison to parenting because it's
Correct.
very similar in that at the end of the day, you do everything you can to build this foundation, give them the tools, give them the resources to try to make great decisions, but they're going to make their decisions. And even when they mess up, you're still going to be there to support them. And that's what I think great leaders have to train themselves to be able to do.
You bring up our children. We just had this discussion this morning with my daughter. She got $450 that came into her checking account, and we asked her one of the questions that's on this list. So, what's your solution with this $450? What are you wanting to do? And she thought through a couple of things, and her mother and I had a couple of suggestions to do with the $450. But ultimately, she's going to be 23 years old. She's a young, grown woman. So, hey, this is your dollars that are here. What's your solution that you're going to do? And lo and behold, she was going to keep $50 for crazy spending money and $400 to put away for gas for the next 2 semesters. And, she came to some right solutions, but we, brainstormed it. But ultimately, it was, what's your solution? And one of the things that I did with one of my team members, she came to me with a different situation that I needed to have a meeting with somebody above me. And I asked her, do you want to be involved in that meeting? And again, it was a light bulb moment because she said, yeah, thank you for asking me that. Can I, first of all, she was like, I'm not sure if I want to be in that meeting, but thank you for asking me. Can I get back to you? I think I want to be involved in that meeting, but I want to have 2 or 3 bullet notes to have because that's a high level meeting. So those kind of questions, and you have to, for me, this oxymoron of leadership, Carson, you have to be intentional about these questions to bring your team along because those people get paid good money to be a part of your company and to do what they do. So actually treating them like human beings and not just future leaders, but they're leading from the middle of the pack right now.
It's like you always say, we're not human doings, we're human beings.
Yes.
I love this, and you just made a comment too that I think is interesting because I've worked in a lot of different work cultures before, and I think it's wonderful that my boss meets with all of my team members once a
Yeah.
month. And I think it's important to have a culture where my team feels empowered to be able to reach out to my leadership. They typically will make sure that I'm aware of it. I think one thing, and I did a podcast with a gentleman a couple years back who was a VP at Medtronic and a longtime sales leader, and he made the comment like one of his big priorities is never do everything you can to prevent me from being surprised. That's one of my asks. And so, I think as long as you're clear in those types of things, like, my team will usually tip me off that like, hey, we need this approval on XYZ. And hey, if you want to take it straight to my boss, feel free to do that. I mean, I trust you to do that. I want you to have that level of relationship. I want my boss to see my team members leading. and doing things that are, executive level readout. Because frankly, those are the types of things that help them get visibility, get promoted, get bigger bonuses. Because at the end
Yeah.
of the year, I'm going to be advocating for these people on my team. And if they have more face time with the boss, guess what? It makes that story a lot easier. I feel like I get paid to evangelize for and be an advocate for my people and to
One
really
million
draw
percent.
out like what are their unique skills and superpowers that can elevate everybody around them? How can I, narrate that story? I had a member of my team this past year that won Gold Club, one of our biggest awards in the company, and the competition is fierce, as you can imagine. I mean, it's the top
Oh,
1% of the business wins, and a lot of it is being able to articulate that story because hitting a number is one thing, but how you embody the culture and how you live those values. But one of the things that this person benefited from is they had a lot of really good face time that I wanted and encouraged them to have. They shared a lot of great best practices with the rest of the team, and so I think it's not only about like trusting them and asking these amazing questions, but it's putting them in these positions to win and to be an eagle and to soar, like spread their wings truly so that they can not only reach their potential, but make everybody else around them better. And if you run a rigid, micromanagement,
yeah.
spreadsheet driven organization, people aren't going to do that. They're not going to take risks.
Yeah, and once a quarter, there's a and my team has gotten accustomed to it. I don't do it in their biweekly one-on-ones, but once a quarter, I ask my team, Carson, and again, this is just around this oxymoron of leadership. It's just something leaders don't do. I ask my team, hey, if you were in my seat, what would you do differently? Or what would
Mm,
you do different? And instead of it's a flip-sided way of asking the question, what feedback do you have for me? But instead, I asked them, hey, if you were in my seat, if you were king for the day or the manager for the day, what would you do different? Many times they'll say, oh, I can't think of anything. Can I get back to you? But sometimes they'll say something simple like, oh, I would communicate this new thing much more than what we're communicating. And it's an unlock for me. And I go, you're probably right. I don't know that we've communicated enough around X, Y, or Z. And no matter what company you're in, you're listening to this little talk from Carson and I. No matter what company you're in, communication comes back on those EPS surveys every year, time and time again. Communicate, communicate, communicate. And so I took that advice. It was gold to me. So just asking those kind of questions intentionally, I think helps you as a leader to unlock some blind spots that you may have. And we all have blind spots and we all have things we could be doing better. But just asking your people, hey, what feedback? How could I be a better coach or how could I be a better leader? Your people have a tendency to just say, oh, you're great and pat you on the back or you do this well. Instead, asking them that question of, hey, if you were in my seat, what would you do different?
yeah,
Wow, just unlock.
so good. I tend to look too, especially kind of in this. I feel like I'm in a season of perpetual growth where I'm continuously looking at ways to try to improve. There's one of these 12 that I think is harder than the rest, and it's I was wrong. And I think, again, it goes back to that that fear or that trepidation about being seen as anything less than a great leader or a great employee or great colleague. Um, I have a lot of people pleasing attributes, and I always want to be looked at as, Carson's doing his, doing great work. And so that's important to me, and I take a lot of pride in that. So it is hard when you have to acknowledge that, hey, I made a wrong call there. And but I think the key element there, just like almost delivering a tough conversation, which you and I have talked about,
Yeah.
it's getting to that point and just saying those words. You don't have to dance around it. You don't want to dance around it. You don't have to do a lot of justification. It can really just be, I made a call. I was wrong. I apologize. I recommended this, or I was looking at this, or, I was grappling with some things that day, and I came at you the wrong way. I apologize.
Yeah.
Um, you know, one thing I've realized too is that things that I read a quote not too long ago, and it was feelings aren't facts. And so often we react and respond from a place of feelings.
Mm.
Somebody didn't do something the way we thought they should or could. Somebody calls in one too many times, and we get this perception. And the old me, I mean, I might have
Yeah.
come across as snarky, or I may have, you know, said something passive aggressive about them missing time or assumed. And the reality is, look, I have no idea what actually is going on. I know what they might have told me, but I really have no idea what is actually going on. And I will tell you, especially, being a guy who's got a family and 3 kids and people in my life that are constantly going through things and struggling, like life's hard. And so the more that we can show up with grace, the better, and we can prevent some of those mistakes that we may make as leaders. But I know that the hardest one for me on this list is I was wrong. I'm getting better, but it's still hard.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. It reminds me we're in the middle of college football season, and an old quote from Nick Saban that absolutely it takes up rental space in my brain. Nick Saban says, "If you want to make everybody happy, go sell ice cream, because don't be a leader. If you're going to be a leader, you're not going to make everybody happy." And as you were saying those words, it helped me to understand that humility, another oxymoron of leadership, right, is having the humility to say, "Hey, I was wrong," or I messed up, or I felt like I came across. I just want to make sure I came across with the right intent. My favorite one, absolutely on this list that I've used more, I've started using more and more, because somewhere along, and I teach leadership at my company, and then for different workshops in different places across the country. But my favorite one on this list, because somewhere along the line, when we became managers or leaders, someone taught us, or we felt like, "Oh, congratulations, I'm dubbing you with the knight saber on each shoulder. Congratulations, you're a leader. Now you have to have all the answers."
Mm.
And realizing that humility of not having all the answers, for me on this list is the one, teach me, I want to know more. I And you do this, do work-alongs or ride-alongs with different people, or when they're out selling and you're with them. Many times when I go out with some of our frontline sellers or managers, they will say to me, "Oh, well, they sent you from corporate to show me what I'm doing wrong." And I've flipped that script to say, "Actually, I'm here to learn from you. Uh, Teach me some of your best practices that I can spread across the country." That completely changes the environment of the mindset shift. I might interject one or two things along the way, but I really want to learn from you. What's working? What's going well? What are some things, unique things that you're doing that maybe I can multiply, and we can all get better. Those kind of statements, I think, tear down that third wall. They say in acting, there's a third wall that you're never supposed to tear down. You're supposed to have this acting that's happening on stage or in front of the camera. But when you're able to tear down that third wall and talk to the audience, those kind of statements are the oxymoron of leadership, that recognizes that other human, that person brings all kinds of things that we all can learn together.
I always think it's funny in movies when they do that. I look at this list, Richard, and I think about what each of these bullet points like really embodies and exudes. Like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's critical, especially when there's chaos, that the leader keeps that steady hand on the wheel. That there's going to be consistency in leadership and confidence that I don't have all the answers today. Yes, there are things that are going haywire, but we're in this together. We're going to figure it out. You being able to say, let's celebrate. I think sometimes, like, and believe me, it can be challenging too, because even if you're not working for a culture that embodies these things, you as a leader or even as a human still have that conscious decision to make to do it anyway. And so even if you don't feel celebrated as an example, like everything I send out to my team, I always try to recognize, find some positives that I can really incorporate, acknowledge what I see them going through. Um, I picked up a best practice recently working with, someone that I've been, sharing ideas with as a colleague. And it was this like doing a Friday video for my team. Like my team's all
Yeah.
spread out. So like just doing this Friday recap video, it's a lot more personal than just sending them a note. And it's just like picking that up and like they loved it. They gravitated toward it. On my Monday call, I do this thing called DJ of the week where, we recognize somebody that did something great in the week prior and they pick a song that kind of kicks us off. You get exposed to other people's musical tastes, why they picked the song they chose, and people feel recognized. Like it's amazing to me, like how proud people felt just because they got to pick the song. Like I take these things for granted, but like they love it. And like celebration, I had a colleague of mine who used to say, like, recognition is free. Like being able to find those things that recognize and make people feel like $1 million. I look at these things and it goes back to that old statement about how critical it is to make how you make people feel. And I think that's really what it comes down to. Think about what these 12 things, what they make people feel. They make people feel seen. They make people feel trusted. They make people feel valued. And aren't those the types of things that we want to instill in our team?
Yeah, and you can always attract more flies with honey. I think is the old colloquialism that if you implement celebrating, let's celebrate number 8 with number 10. Thank you on this list, and I'll just close with this. I tell people, and especially leaders, all the time. Last time I checked, nobody ever goes home at the end of a day or the end of a week and they tell their spouse, significant other, or their mom or dad or whoever, their dog or cat, they never go home and say, man, I got way too much encouragement this week at work. Have you ever known anyone that has gone home at the end of the day, put in a long, hard day, really gave it their all, 1,000,000%, and they say, my gosh, I just, this week, I got too many thank yous, too many celebratory, too many pats on the back. There were way too many people that were encouraging me this week. Why? Because most of us have a styrofoam cup full of the liquid of us, and all day long, our styrofoam cup gets poked from different things and different pieces of feedback or different customers or different no's or different assignments. And well, we've changed this and we are constantly leaking out of our own styrofoam cup called us. And that thank you and that celebrate you literally is the way to pour back into your people's cup. And that is the oxymoron of leadership.
Boom. Um, I I think a key takeaway here, like everybody watching, it takes 5 seconds to like respond to somebody and say, "Hey, that was an awesome email," or to send a note and say, "Hey, you really conducted yourself well in that meeting." Like,
Yeah.
just think. I always try to look for catching people doing things right. And I do the same thing with my kids. I try to catch them doing things right so I can compliment them and reinforce the positive behavior. It's the same concept. I have somebody too that I work with that, like, I know they get all kinds of ridiculous requests and asks all the time. And I told this person the other day, I'm never going to add to your plate because I know you get a lot of requests from other people. You don't need any additional work from me. You tell me how I can make your job easier. And I just
Yeah.
want to say in closing, lastly, like, Richard, thank you for always single-handedly trying to not make these things be the oxymoron of leadership. They need to define leadership.
Thank you, my friend. Thanks for pouring into my cup.
Love it. Thank you, sir. We'll see you next time.